The mineral deposits on Valdris sang in frequencies that human ears weren't supposed to hear. But Kes had always been different. As she knelt beside the crystalline formations jutting from the rust-colored stone, her handheld analyzer hummed in harmony with the geological symphony around her. 3 weeks on this world? And already she'd sent back enough data to revolutionize humanity's understanding of rare element distribution in low-gravity planetary systems. Beautiful, isn't it? She whispered to herself, running a gloved finger along a ridge of purple quartz that caught the light of the binary suns overhead. The sky above Valdris shifted between deep orange and pale green, creating shadows that made everything look like it existed between two worlds. Fitting, she thought. That's what she felt like out here, caught between her training and her wonder. Between protocol and instinct, the crash site of her shuttle lay 3 kilometers behind her, nestled in a valley she'd deliberately chosen for its mineral-rich geology. Her mission parameters were clear: document, analyze, transmit. Don't interact with the indigenous population beyond observation. Some worlds wanted visitors. Others had made it abundantly clear they did not. Valdris seemed peaceful enough. Kes had learned not to trust first impressions. That's why the screaming made her freeze. It came from the ridge. Above her position, a child's voice, high and terrified, cutting through the afternoon like broken glass. Kes's training immediately resurfaced. Observe, document, maintain distance. The accords were explicit. She had no mandate to interfere, no authorization to risk herself or the mission. Protocol was protocol. But the screaming didn't stop. Kes cursed under her breath, abandoned her analyzer, and started climbing. The loose shale beneath her boots made the ascent treacherous, but the sound was growing more desperate. A second voice joined the first, deeper, older, more afraid. She crested the ridge, and what she saw made her heart stall. 4 figures on horseback surrounded a child no older than 8 years old. They wore leather armor, the color of old blood, and their skin a deep violet blue that reminded Kes of sapphires, was marked with ritual scarification. Crossbows. They had actual crossbows drawn and loaded. Bolts trained on a child who was backing away with her small hands raised. "Stop!" Kes shouted without thinking. Everyone froze. The mounted warriors turned their heads, fixing on her with the synchronized precision of a hunting pack. Their eyes were large and luminous, pupils slit vertically like a reptile's. One of them, the one in the lead, raised an eyebrow that arced above her left eye in a way that looked almost amused. Kes realized in that moment that she'd made a serious mistake. "Another one," the lead warrior said, her voice carrying a lilting accent that made the Valdrisian language sound almost musical. How fortunate. Everything happened at once. One of the mounted warriors turned their crossbow toward Kes. She dove sideways, instinct screaming. The bolt flew past her ear close enough that she heard it part the air, a whistling sound, like metal singing. It buried itself in the stone behind her with a sound like breaking glass, and something green-thick and toxically kinked dripped from the tip poison. The child screamed again, and something in Kes's chest cracked open. She scrambled toward the small figure, her muscles burning as she pushed herself to move faster than anything her earthborn body should be capable of. The second crossbow was already drawn, the warrior's finger tightening on the trigger. Kes could see it happening as if in slow motion, the subtle tightening of muscle. The exact moment the bolt would be released, she threw herself between the child and the weapon. The impact was instantaneous and absolute. Fire exploded through her back, radiating outward from a single point of agony. The bolt had punched through her thermal jacket and buried itself deeply. She could feel it. Foreign thing embedded between her ribs. Cold radiated from the wound immediately, spreading through her chest cavity like liquid nitrogen. Her lungs seized. Her vision blurred. Somewhere very far away, she heard the child crying. She hoped she'd moved fast enough. She hoped then her legs gave out and she was falling, tumbling backward down the ridge in a confusion of stone and sky and purple shadows. She regained consciousness in fragments. Faces hovering above her, violet skin and concerned eyes. Hands moving over her body, gentle hands, surprisingly. the scratch of stone beneath her warmed by sunlight. Voices speaking in the clicking, melodic language she'd been studying. The venom, someone said. It's not killing him. Just slowing him. Preserving him. His biology is unlike anything in our records. The princess is unharmed. That's all that matters. Through slitted eyes, Kess saw one figure clearly. The same warrior who'd led the group, the one with the amused expression and the scar cutting through her left eyebrow. She was younger than Kess had first thought, maybe late 20s in Earth years, though Kess's understanding of alien aging was limited. She knelt beside Kess's immobilized form, studying her with an intensity that felt almost burning. "Why did you do that?" The warrior asked, in heavily accented but comprehensible English. "You don't know the child. Don't know us. By your own people's law, you should have observed from a distance." Kess tried to speak. Her jaw wouldn't move. The poison had spread to her throat now, her entire nervous system slowly grinding to a halt. But she could think, could hear, could see the confusion in the warrior's luminous eyes. "Foolish," the warrior continued. And Kess could have sworn there was something other than criticism in her voice. Brave, but foolish. She stood, turning to give orders to the others. Her voice was authoritative, used to command. As Kess's consciousness flickered like a dying flame, she caught the warrior's name being spoken, Tavian. Captain Tavian of the Royal Guard? The last thing Kess saw before the darkness claimed her completely was Tavian looking back down at her, that violet gaze holding something that looked dangerously like grief. The preservation chamber was built into the heart of the mountain, carved from stone so ancient it predated written history. Tavian had never liked this place. It smelled of minerals and something else, something chemical and sterile that didn't belong in a palace dedicated to honoring the dead. But then again, Kess wasn't dead. Not quite. The human lay on a platform of carved stone, suspended in a thick blue gel that glowed with bioluminescent properties. The gel had been the healer's solution, a desperate improvisation based on ancient texts and modern desperation. The poison had stopped Kess's heart 3 times on the way to the palace. The 3rd time, Tavian had thought she was truly gone. But Kess's eyes had still moved beneath closed lids. "You're here again," Syrah's voice came from the shadows near the chamber entrance. Tavian's younger sister stepped into the pale blue light, her violet skin and sharp features making her look almost predatory. They shared the same bloodline, the same high cheekbones, and the same gift for reading people. Where they differed was in everything that mattered. Syrah saw problems to be solved. Tavian saw people to be saved? "Someone needs to monitor the preservation field," Tavian said, without looking away from Kess's face. The human was beautiful in a strange way, all sharp angles and pale skin that looked impossibly fragile against the gel surrounding her. Tavian had memorized every detail. The small scar on her left temple, the way her fingers curved slightly, as if still reaching for something. The determination that had been frozen into her features. "The healers monitor the preservation field," Syrah said, moving closer. "You monitor the human. Again, that's the 4th time this week. And it's only Tuesday. Her name is Kess. I don't care if her name is Destiny itself." Syrah crossed her arms. A gesture that made her look so much like their mother that Tavian's heart clenched. "You're a captain of the Royal Guard, Tavian. You have duties, responsibilities, and instead, you're spending your time with a foreigner who violated the Sanctuary Accords by being here in the first place. She saved Princess Maya's life, nearly died doing it, which should tell you that her judgment is as questionable as yours apparently is." Syrah moved to stand beside the preservation platform, looking down at Kess's frozen face. "The council is asking questions. Why you brought her here. Why you ordered the healers to attempt preservation rather than allowing her a dignified death. Why you keep visiting her like she's someone who matters." Tavian finally turned to face her sister. Syrah's expression was carefully neutral, the diplomat's mask she'd been perfecting since childhood. But her eyes betrayed her. There was concern there, buried beneath the political calculation. Syrah had always been smarter about the way the world worked. She understood strategy and consequence in ways Tavian never would. It was one of the reasons they'd never quite managed to see eye to eye. "She matters because she chose to die for a child she'd never met," Tavian said quietly. That means something. It has to mean something. What it means is that she's a complication we don't need. Syrah's voice softened slightly. The kingdom is fragile, Tavian. You know this? Father's health is declining. The northern provinces are restless. And now we have a human in our most sacred chamber, human that you're clearly emotionally invested in. Do you understand what that looks like? Like what? Like weakness. Syrah reached out and briefly touched Tavian's shoulder, like our captain of the guard has allowed sentiment to cloud her judgment, like she might be compromised. Tavian shrugged away from the touch, more roughly than she intended. Then they'll have to relieve me of duty, they might. Syrah's voice was flat now, clinical. I wanted to give you a chance to prepare yourself, to step back voluntarily, to distance yourself from this situation before it becomes a scandal. But you won't do that, will you? No. Syrah turned and walked toward the exit. At the threshold, she paused. I hope she wakes up, Tavian. Truly, I do. Because if she doesn't, you'll have thrown away your career for nothing. And if she does, she'll let the sentence hang. Then you'll have to face the fact that she won't thank you for saving her. She'll just be grateful to be alive. And grateful people don't stay. You left Tavian, alone with the sound of her own, breathing and the soft hum of the preservation. Field.Tavia and waited until she heard Syrah's footsteps fade completely down the stone corridor. Then she pulled a chair close to the platform and sat down. She'd taken to doing this at night, when most of the palace was sleeping. When no one could question why she was here. She's worried about me, Tavian said softly, looking at Kess's face. My sister, Syrah. You'd probably like her, actually. She's brilliant in ways I'll never be. Can see 10 moves ahead in every political game. Makes our mother look like an amateur. Tavian paused, running a finger along the edge of the platform without actually touching Kess. But she's also afraid. Afraid of what losing position means. Afraid that sentiment is weakness. The blue gel made no sound. The preservation field maintained its steady hum. I'm afraid too, Tavian continued. But not of losing position. I'm afraid of this, of you lying here, frozen in time, and me sitting out here, aging, getting older, eventually dying while you're just suspended, trapped in a moment you didn't choose. She swallowed hard. That's selfish of me, isn't it? To be afraid of that when you're the one suffering? She leaned back in the chair, staring up at the crystalline ceiling of the chamber. It had been carved centuries ago, each line representing a prayer or a promise or a name. Somewhere up there in those endless patterns was her own family's history. Generation after generation of warriors and leaders and people who'd made hard choices for the kingdom. I keep thinking about what you said, Tavian whispered. When Syrah asked why you did it, and you couldn't speak, but your eyes, they were so clear. Like you were asking me to understand something. And I think I do. I think you saw Maya in danger and you didn't think. You didn't calculate the risk or weigh the consequences. You just acted because that's what people do when they love something. The preservation field hummed steadily. Kess's eyes continued their slow, unconscious movement beneath her lids. I'm going to stay, Tavian said. No matter what the council says. No matter what Syrah warns me about. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to talk to you. And maybe that makes me foolish. Maybe that makes me weak. But it also makes me honest. And I think you'd appreciate that if you could hear me. She stood, leaning over the preservation platform. Through the thick gel, she could just barely make out Kess's features. The human woman's chest rose and fell with mechanical precision. Breathing maintained by the systems the healers had constructed. She was alive. Technically, suspended. Caught between one moment and whatever came next. Tavia impressed her palm against the gel, directly above where Kess's heart should be. It was cool, slightly viscous, and it gave slightly beneath her touch. I don't know if you can hear me, Tavian said, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. But if you can, I need you to know something. You saved Maya's life. And in doing that, you saved mine too. Because now I have a reason to believe that the best parts of us, the parts that act without thinking, that love without counting the costs, might actually be the strongest parts of all. She withdrew her hand and turned to leave. At the threshold of the chamber, she looked back one final time. The blue light of the preservation field cast everything in an ethereal glow, turning the chamber into something that looked almost like a tomb or a cathedral. Tavian wasn't sure which was worse. "I'll be back tomorrow night," she promised the frozen human, "and the night after that, for as long as it takes." Then she left Kess to the humming machines and the endless blue glow, not knowing that somewhere in that frozen consciousness, a spark of awareness flickered. Somewhere deep in the suspension, Tavian's voice reached through the darkness like a lifeline, like a reason to hold on, like love.